What is up, and welcome back to another video. And today we're talking about a very interesting topic. We're back on the Sport Talk, and today it's all on F1 driver transfers. So welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Sport Talk, and today, as I said a second ago, it's F1 driver transfer time. Over the last week, things have hotted up in the driver market after what's been a very dull start with no races to start off with and then nothing happening in the market, and then all of a sudden Sebastian Vettel retires and it's all gone down the pan and everyone's moving left, right and centre. We've had 2 confirmed moves so far, but I'm going to be running you through what could happen along the rest of the grid and my predictions for the 2021 grid lineup. Now, I know that the changes for the FIA have been moved back a year to 2022, so that's actually had an impact on who I've changed and who I've kept in which seats. Also, I'd love to hear what you guys think. All my thoughts in the comments down below, and if you want to see a part 2 where I predict 2022 lineups, I know it's looking a long way into the future, but I liked that kind of crystal ball thing. I think it's quite interesting to play devil's advocate. I'll do that. But on with the video, starting off, of course, with Mercedes. Now, if you see me look down, I've got a piece of paper with all the names and stuff below, so that's why that is. But we start off with Mercedes, of course, the current reigning champions. I've stuck with their lineup. I've gone for Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas. I can't see them changing their driver lineup before the changes coming in what is now 2022. So I think Valtteri will get one more year with the silver house. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton, I can't see him leaving. I know that he's 35, but to be honest, can you see him moving elsewhere? I think the answer is frankly no, and I don't think there are many other options as to drivers. Obviously they have Ocon, obviously they have Russell, but I don't think either of them quite have the experience yet to drive for those teams. I think 2021 will be a year where we test those two to see if they're ready, and could actually promote both of them depending on what happens and whether Lewis stays moving on to 2022 and the next era. So my lineup for Mercedes, they remain the same. It's going to be Hamilton and Bottas. Now we move on to Ferrari, where we have our first confirmed lineup. It will be Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. I can't wait to see these two drive together. I think it's going to be an awesome pairing. Both are brilliant drivers, very charismatic, both very young, both could be at the team for a long time, and I think this could be a team that could challenge. I'm very interested to see what they do. Obviously, Sainz will be the number 2, but he is no pushover. He's probably the best, I would say, of the 3 second drivers. You look at Bottas, he's a little bit older. Albon not as experienced. Sainz has got that nice middle ground. He's got a good bit of experience, good bit of racing quality. He's happy to attack, but I don't think he's quite up to Charles or, say, Max or Lewis's level in the same respect. So I think he is the perfect second driver for them at the moment. So their lineup is, of course, going to be the same, and I anticipate it probably will be, unless something goes wrong and the two have an argument, for a couple of years. So moving forward, the third of the big teams, we have Red Bull. Now, Max Verstappen, of course, has a seat, I believe, until 2024, if I am correct. However, the second seat is, of course, up for grabs. They could go for Alex Albon, they could go for Pierre Gasly, they could go for Daniel Kvyat, but I've stuck with Alex Albon. I can't see anyone else coming in and taking that seat. I can't see Ricciardo coming back to the team. I couldn't see someone like a Bottas or a Vettel. I can't see Vettel going back, because I think the reason he's left Ferrari is because he doesn't want to play second fiddle to Charles. So he's not going to head to Red Bull to play second fiddle to Max. So I can't see that happening. So I think the lineup will stay the same as it has been for the past. What will be year and a half or / a year, depending on how many races we get. Hopefully we at least get something this year, I would hope. But at the moment, of course, it is all cancelled. So Alex Albon and Max Verstappen is my Red Bull pairing. So there are the 3 big teams and what I think will be going on there. So to move on forwards, next up it's McLaren, the number 4 team as it currently stands. But to be honest, with the way Renault went high and then low, I wouldn't be surprised if they did. But in the same respect, I wouldn't be surprised if they jump up and have that opportunity to join the big boys once the changes come in 2022. So they want to make sure they have a solid lineup heading into that year who can help them develop the car. And I think they have the perfect duo when it comes to that. First up, they of course have Lando Norris, a great driver, very popular amongst sport, obviously his esports stuff and his vlogs and stuff like that make him a very popular driver. Also being British kind of fits with the McLaren kind of esque of having a British driver in the team. You think back to Button, you think back to Hamilton. I think it suits their ethos a little bit, and also having a young driver is a lot of fun. And alongside him, we have another confirmed driver. Don't know if he's confirmed for 2021, but I'd assume that he is, unless something goes horribly wrong at McLaren, I know he's confirmed for 2021, I'm not talking 2022, it will be Daniel Ricciardo, of course, another brilliant driver. I think the reason they brought him in, the most promising option outside of Carlos Sainz, and I think to be honest, probably a better driver than Sainz for the year that's coming up. I think Sainz is a better option for Ferrari, but I think Ricciardo is a better option than Sainz for McLaren. The reason being, I think they're level in terms of driver quality. I think they're both brilliant, both attacking, both fun guys to be around as well. But I think Danny Rick, and also that combo of Danny Rick and Lando Norris, can we say that's just a dream combo for a second that we never thought we'd see happen? But I think Danny Rick has that bit of experience that will help him develop the car more than maybe Carlos Sainz can do, where he's not, as I said before, as experienced as Ricciardo has got, I think 5 or 6 years in him in terms of age. I think Ricciardo's 30, Sainz is just 24. So those big 4 teams are locked out, and now I think it's time to look to Renault. What do they do? Now, they've got rid of Nico Hülkenberg in what now could be a horrible move for them. They've lost Daniel Ricciardo. Obviously, they have Esteban Ocon, who they could, in theory, lose as well, depending on how the driver market goes. If Ocon were to leave, I wouldn't be surprised to see them pick up Bottas as the replacement. Maybe they could go for an Alonso. His name has been thrown around. Maybe they could go for Sebastian Vettel. His name's been thrown around, but I can't see either of them going to the team. My prediction for 2021, as I've kept Bottas at Mercedes, which I think is their best option, is that Ocon as one of their drivers, and their second driver, probably a controversial pick here, George Russell. Now, Russell has struggled at the back of the grid for the past year. He can't do anything at Williams, but everybody knows that he is a quality driver. He's smashed 2 bits around the park. He's won Formula 2. He deserves a good seat, and I think it would be the perfect option for Mercedes to pair their 2 young drivers up against each other in the team, give them equal fighting weights, and there's no fairer way to see who deserves that spot alongside Hamilton for the 2022 season. Let them duke it out. I reckon Renault would be happy to take him because they're not going to want to crawl back to Hülkenberg, and I don't think there's any driver on the grid better than Russell once you conk out those top 8 drivers. Maybe you have Vettel, but I can't see him heading to Renault. Maybe you have Sergio Perez, but he's contracted to Racing Point for the next few years. Maybe you've got Kimi, but he's quite old and is not really a future-proof driver and is unlikely to move from Albon. So I think George Russell is the perfect driver for them, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it happen in the next year. So the French team is going to have, I was about to say Nico Hülkenberg, not Nico Hülkenberg, it'll be George Russell and it'll be Esteban Ocon for their team. So that's the top 5 teams done. Moving on to team number 6. Who should we move on to next? Now we get to the bottom half of the grid as such. I was thinking about who to introduce first, but we'll just talk about Racing Point real quick. I can't see any changes heading on in that team. I've stuck with the combo of Sergio Perez, who's contracted for next year. He's got a contract until 2022, but I think is our best option, and I can't see Lance Stroll leaving the team just because, well, his dad's the owner, so if he does get kicked out, it would be very controversial, but I can't see it happening, to be honest. So Racing Point will remain the same, and I think Stroll's actually decent. He's still only 21 years of age, and I reckon he will just improve. Now, the next team that we're going to go for, we're going to go for Alfa Romeo. Let's talk Alfa. So, kind of the rookie team for Ferrari. Obviously, Giovinazzi's kind of playing that role. But they've also got Kimi, an experienced driver. Now, Kimi, obviously, both these drivers have their cons. Kimi is 40 years of age, but obviously a top driver. Now, I've kept him in the seat for the 2021 season. I don't think he'll go past 2021. I think when the new FIA stuff gets introduced, he will stop and leave the sport there. He'll be 41 years of age by 2022. I can't see him carrying on at that age. Also, I think the new rules could mess with him a little bit because obviously he won't be... He's less like... Once you get to that age, it's harder to learn. So I've kicked him out at 2022, but for 2021, I've kept him in the seat. And alongside him, I have gone for Antonio Giovinazzi. Now, there are options. You've got Mick Schumacher, you've got Schwartzman, but I haven't put in... You look further, you've got Lacey, you've got Fittipaldi, but I haven't... Any of them have quite earned a seat at the team as of yet. Schumacher's obviously a top driver, but he doesn't actually have enough super license points as it currently stands, so he'd have to pick up some in the current season. It's the last year that his Formula 2 win would count as well, so he needs to make sure that he's picking up some points in Formula 2 this season. I don't think he picked up any last year, finishing 12th in the championship, so he needs at least a top 6 finish in the championship if it goes ahead this year to ensure that he can get a Formula 1 sheet. Otherwise, things could get messy for him as a driver, to be honest. He may be forced out. You could go for that was not English. Nick de Vries as an alternative option, but I've stuck with Giovinazzi. I think it could be the experience. It will be his last chance, and he could become the experienced driver at the team, but I just don't rate him that highly, to be honest. I don't think he's done a huge amount. Obviously, he had that 5th place, I believe, at Brazil, but other than that, hadn't had great results. He had 4 points finishes in last season's championship, so he's going to have to improve, but I think he'll get a seat for 2021. Now, I need to drink, because otherwise I'm going to die and run out of breath, but our next team that we're going to move on to, we will move on to Toro Rosso next. Now, Obviously, they've had drivers moving about left, right and centre, coming early. You have Brendan Hartley, Gasly, Albon, Kvyat, everybody's been moving. But who's going to have the seats for next year? Now, Pierre Gasly. Can't see him moving anywhere, to be honest. I think he's happy in the seat. He put good performances in those last 9 races. He raced well for them in 2018. And I can't see him moving from the team. But the other driver is Daniel Kvyat. Now, Kvyat's got a couple of things in his mind. First up, he was not selected ahead of Alex Albon, which begs the question, can he ever become a world champion with Red Bull? And probably the answer is no. Secondly, Red Bull will be looking at it as well and going, we have young options. Or we've got Dan Tickton, but more importantly, they've got Seta Camara, who finished 4th in Formula 2 last year, a very promising driver, will bring in a good bit of cash and could allow the continued line of succession, which obviously they currently have the issue. And they've just signed him, which suggests they are at least considering the option. But I've kept Kvyat at the team for 2021. I think he will move on by 2022, but that's for a later video. If you guys want to see that, folks, for 2021, quite boringly now, we have 3 teams that are the exact same. Toro Rosso, I am going to keep as Pierre Gasly and Daniel Kvyat, but obviously Seta Camara, I think we'll play the test and reserve drive. I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe they even give him a couple of races if they want to switch things up in that season ahead of the change. But I think Kvyat will leave at the end of 2021. That will be the end of him. Pierre Gasly, I don't know where he'll be, but I reckon 2021 he will have a seat. So that leaves 2 teams remaining. And these teams I have made changes to the driving lineup. First up, we have Haas. Now Haas, their driver combo, it's an interesting one. At times it's been messy. Well, Kevin Magnussen kicked the bloody door down, but I've kept him in the team. I think K-Mag is a quality driver. Could he get a seat at someone like Renault? Maybe. Can I see him wanting to go somewhere like Alpha? Maybe. But I haven't put him down for either of those teams for next year. I've kept him at, Alfa Romeo. I've kept him at Haas for the 2021 season, even if he isn't under contract and his relationship with Günther Steiner can at times be on the ropes after a poor year in 2019. And hopefully, if we get some races, we'll get to see what he's like in 2020. But alongside him, I've not picked Romain Grosjean. By 2021, he'll be 35. And whilst Lewis Hamilton can get away with that, Romain Grosjean cannot. He only got 8 points in the last year's championship. He's had issues with the team. He's not been brilliant. He's not at his peak anymore. And I think it's time for them to look and move on to a better driver. But the question is, who? Again, like Alfa Romeo, I reckon Ferrari would be happy to offer up a driver such as Mick Schumacher, such as Fittipaldi, such as Alesi, but I haven't put any of them in the seat. I've dived straight to a Formula 2 driver or a Formula 3 driver who's got his points from the Formula 3 Championship that he won in 2018 and also the Toyota Racing Series, which he got 10 super lights points from as well. And that is going to be Robert Schwartzman, a very promising driver who's very quickly up and coming in the Ferrari lineup. Now, Mick Schumacher doesn't have enough points on his license, and I reckon they'd rather see him go to Alpha as they have more control over that team anyway. So Schwartzman may be the man that takes this spot, as I can't see Alonso returning to a team like that, like Haas. I can't see Vettel headed there under any stretch of the imagination. Other options they could have, Marcus Ericsson, I think, is always criminally underrated. Talk about and hear drivers saying how good he is a driver. Obviously, he never brought the results, but he's obviously got something to at least back his abilities. You also have Guang Zhu, who I think is a decent driver. Got Sean Gelala as an option, Luca Giotto. They could pick from that bunch of Formula 2, but I reckon they might head straight to Formula 3, like Lance Stroll, make the jump and take Schwartzman as a little bit of a risk. It's a low-risk strategy. No one's got any expectations, so maybe it could pay off in the long run. So that leaves 1 team left. Now, Williams, Nicholas Latifi. First up, I've kicked out George Russell. I've moved him on to Renault. So that means we have 1 spot open in this team already. Am I going to give it to Romain Grosjean? Am I going to give it to Sebastian Vettel? Am I going to give it to Fernando Alonso? Heck, no. The first seat is obviously going to be Nicholas Latifi. He's an average driver, mediocre, but he brings in the cash, so he will, of course, get a seat. And I think, Jesus, this could be a 15-minute video. But Nicholas Latifi will get the first seat. And now I think there are 2 drivers that have options for the 2021 season when it comes to Williams. First up, we have Sergei Sirotkin, the 24-year-old who brings in fucking bank. Or they have Jack Aitken. I think Claire Williams would like to have Jack as another young driver. Obviously, they'd have lost George, and I think they know they're going to lose George at some point. Anyway, Jack could be the next step for them, having that young, promising driver. I don't think Robert Kubica is really in the question, so that leaves Jack Aitken or Sergei Sirotkin. And the reason for the man that I'm going to go for, which is Jack Aitken, is that they already have Nicholas Latifi bringing in a bit of cash, and hopefully they can try and improve, and they have improved, I believe, in 2020 regardless, to at least be a mid-table team. So for that reason, Jack Aitken, they need someone for the cash, someone for the results, and Sergei Sirotkin just wasn't good enough when he drove for them, let's be brutally honest. So that is my driving line. I'll leave a list or all the drivers in the, just to the side of me here, or some shit like that. Leave in the comments below what you've thought of the drivers that I have selected. Have I missed someone out that you think should be in a team? Is someone there that shouldn't be deserving of a seat? And what should I talk about next week in the Sport Talk? Until next time, I hope you guys have enjoyed, and peace.